Hello friends, let's have a discussion on general awareness. Here's the first question in today's discussion. Which has become the first country to receive coronavirus vaccines through the COVAX vaccine sharing initiative? Now, the answer is Ghana. This is where Ghana is. This is where Ghana is. You see this in pink here? Yeah, this is Ghana. And this country, Ghana, it's a very small country. Its capital is Accra. I'll discuss this entire virus, the vaccine sharing initiative in a while. But before that, let's just be done with this basic details about Ghana. Ghana is an African country whose capital is Accra. Its president is Nana Akufo Addo. Nana Akufo Addo. The currency is cedi. It's one of the world's biggest producer of cocoa, with coffee, coffee seeds, chocolate, coffee, and all. So Nana Akufo-Addo is the president of Ghana, and the capital is Accra, where these Ghanaians use cedi as their currency. Now I'm going to give you notes on the COVAX vaccine. Just before that, I think let's be done with Guinea also. See, there are multiple Guineas in Africa. There is one Guinea here called the Guinea. This is Guinea. Okay, this is one Guinea, and they have something called Guinea-Bissau also very next to it. You see this tiny country here. This is Guinea-Bissau. Now this is Bissau. It's called Guinea-Bissau because Bissau is the capital of this country. To differentiate between different Guineas, they have added the name of the name of the country capital has been added after the name of the country. So Guinea-Bissau, the capital is Bissau. That's how it is. Now when it comes to this Guinea, the one that we are discussing, the capital is Conakry. Is it? Conakry is the capital of Guinea, and its president is a guy called Alpha Conde. Alpha Conde, erstwhile a part of the French Empire, French, Italian, lot of these European parts ruled over this part of the Sahara. So Alpha Conde is the president, and the currency is franc. This is Kenya. You can see this here. Kenya's capital, as you know, is Nairobi. Yeah, Nairobi. And the president is Uhuru Kenyatta. It's very easy to know because the surname is Kenyatta. Currency is I think shilling. Yeah, shilling. I think South Africa we discussed recently, so we'll not repeat. And I don't know if we had discussed Zimbabwe. Then this is Zimbabwe, my friends. This is in brown. You see here. This one, yeah, is Zimbabwe. This is a very poor country. Harare is a capital. Some of you might remember that there is this cricket team from Zimbabwe. Harare is the capital, and the president is a guy called Emerson Mnangagwa. And the currency is Zimbabwean dollar. They have had multiple currencies, but currently they're using this currency, Zimbabwean dollar. We'll not discuss South Africa. Let's not spend time here. So let's look at the COVAX vaccine. Just before that, I want you to know something here. See, before this, you please write this: COVAX, coronavirus vaccine, initiative, the vaccine sharing initiative, COVAX. Underline that first point, right, point wise. Okay, first point: aims to deliver, aims to deliver. I'll go slow so that you can write. Aims to deliver about 2 billion doses, doses of coronavirus vaccines to people to people in about 190 nations, to people in about 190 nations in less than a year. In less than a year, that is especially this year 2021, in less than a year. So aims to deliver about 2 billion doses of coronavirus vaccine in about 190 countries in less than a year. Now you may wonder, well, the population is more than 7 billion, how is it that 2 billion will be sufficient? We are discussing the more vulnerable, the more vulnerable to susceptibility. Old people, people with comorbidities like high blood pressure, sugar, diabetes and all that stuff. So, they need to be inoculated first. Next point. Aims to ensure, ensure that 92 poorer nations, poorer nations receive access to vaccines at the same time as 98 wealthier nations, wealthier than these poor countries, wealthier nations. Okay. Next. The scheme is led by the WHO, the World Health Organization. The scheme is led by the World Health Organization and involves involves Global Vaccine Alliance, in brackets Gavi. This is Gavi, Global Vaccine Alliance, and the coalition for epidemic preparedness, innovations. The Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations. Full stop. COVAX has raised about $6 billion, comma, but needs another $2 billion. Full stop. The US under President Joseph Biden, or you can write Joe, has pledged about $4 billion. Has pledged about $4 billion. Full stop. The UK has contributed, last point, the UK has contributed about $734 million. That is billion, this is million. Okay, $734 million. This is UK's contribution. This is America's contribution. They already contributed. They are going to contribute $4 billion more. And remember one thing. One in this case, 734 million. This is 4 billion. 4 billion would be 4,000 million. Okay, 4,000 million. So that's about COVAX. Now you may wonder as to look at there is still this entire thing about some countries are hoarding vaccines. Some countries don't want these to be shared with poorer nations. So they may talk about humanity. The West always talks about this, but often it falls short on those promises. Whereas India has launched something called COVID, vaccine Maitri. Maitri means friendship. So this Maitri, through this initiative, COVID vaccine, we are selling less. It's less about selling. It's about more about granting these medicines free of cost. We have given them to countries like small countries like Lesotho. This is Lesotho. You can see this tiny country here. Yeah, this is Lesotho. Very tiny country, poor country. So a lot of poor countries have received vaccines from us. Our own neighborhood countries, Bhutan, Nepal, Bangladesh have received this. It is important that poor nations are taken care of, because in India also we have started with frontline workers, then moved on to other workers, paramilitary forces, security forces, now the elderly and the people above 45 years, or especially those with comorbidities, high blood pressure, diabetes, some kidney issues and all that stuff. So recently the Delhi High Court said that we don't have enough and we are selling. No, it is not how it works. Governments have obligations, international obligations. We need to earn goodwill so that we get their, this country's votes at the right places, UN, FAO, all these places. But we are going slow. It's a very large country, very, very large country. The problem is not that we don't have enough. The problem is that some countries have hoarded vaccines. And I want you to look at this. Over ordering of coronavirus vaccines. Canada's population is, hardly about 4 crores, but they have ordered 338 million doses. That's 34 crores. Does the country need so many? It doesn't need so many. You can look at UK. UK has ordered, 460 million doses. That's 46 crore doses. Would a country require so many doses when it's and that number is 3.6 times its population. 3.6 its population. So now UK said that we will grant the additional medicines to poor nations. We don't need so many, so we will give them to poor nations. Now you look at America, 2 times its population. But then of course you have to look at America has its own pharma companies. Pfizer has launched one medicine, COVID vaccine. So has Moderna. 2 major American companies have launched COVID vaccines. UK, you can say AstraZeneca is a British company. So is its partner, the Oxford University. No wonder they get premier access. Look at Australia. Population is hardly about 2.6 crore. But look at the population. It's more than 2.5 times. It's actually more than 2. It's mistakenly written like that. I don't know why the numbers are incorrect. So it's a pretty bad state of affairs, my friends. You look at India. India has ordered about 11 crore vaccines, 12 crore vaccines. We have ordered this many. Please understand that it is the interim order, the first order. It's not that there is a final order. Okay, as of now. Now we have our own major pharma companies like vaccine companies like Serum Institute of India, which, ladies and gentlemen, is the biggest vaccine maker in the world. The Serum Institute of India supplies about billion vaccines every year, 1 billion bottles of vaccines every year. So, and then we have Bharat Biotech, which has launched a Covaxin, which has been very effective especially against mutant strains. So the numbers will only rise. But slowly, see, I'm in Hyderabad, and recently, in fact, today's survey has come out that 1 in 2 Hyderabadis have had exposure to COVID. That's a lot, isn't it? So Indonesia, the population is about 27 crores, 26.6, but they have ordered vaccines that are about 38% of their population. In any case, my friends, we need to understand that not everyone, is fortunate enough to have such large numbers of vaccine doses. Okay. Whom of the following persons has authored the book titled Because India Comes First? Now, the idea was, see, just before that, the idea behind sharing this graphic is that you would have some access to information, better information than most others. Okay. I would normally carry a lot of these graphics. Your teacher Bharat would normally carry a lot of graphics because they help us understand things. So you would find maps, graphics, you would find pictures, photos, and all. So they just help us become, familiar, maybe a little more comfortable than most others. Whom of the following persons has authored the book titled Because India Comes First? Well, Because India Comes First, this book tackles the issues of nationalism, identity, culture, and all that. So it's the BJP and RSS active, leader Ram Madhav. Ram Madhav. So, what about the authors, the remaining guys? Jairam Ramesh, as you know, is a Congress chap, so he's C, number 3, sorry, Shashi Tharoor. Both have written books. I would suggest you read this book by Jairam Ramesh. It's called To the Brink. Please read this book. It's a very good book. To the Brink and Back. To the brink and back, to the edge. Brink means edge. India's 1991 story. India's 1991 story. So, India's 1991 story, and okay, let me write in caps. To the brink and back, India's 1991 story. Very good book. Then Shashi Tharoor, he has written lots of books, very many books. I have about 4 of his books. I would recommend that you read this book, which is called An Era of Darkness. An Era of Darkness. The British Empire in India. The British Empire in India. In this book, he talks about how the British looted India. The taking away of our wealth and squeezing the marrow out of the bones of ordinary Indians. So, the British Empire in India. Shashi Tharoor, okay. What about S. Jaishankar? S. Jaishankar and Arun Shourie, both BJP guys. S. Jaishankar, as you know, is the External Affairs Minister of India, and this guy has written this wonderful book. I have this book, The India Way. The India Way. Strategies for an Uncertain World. Strategies for an Uncertain World. So, I think that's about it. Arun Shourie, of course, pretty controversial chap. He was is the ex-editor of the Indian Express. He's a guy who took on Reliance Industries. And you want to know more? He's a pretty. Earlier he was pro Narendra Modi. Then things went bad, and since then he's written a lot of books, a lot of stuff against Prime Minister Modi. But one book I would want you to read is A Secular Agenda. A Secular Agenda. This is a very good book. Yeah, A Secular Agenda. So, pretty good stuff to read. Next. In which Union territory has President's rule been recently imposed? Puducherry. What is that? Puducherry. Just a couple of things about Puducherry. You could write this. Ruled by France. You could write, underline Puducherry and write. Ruled by France till 1954. Till 1954. Ruled by France till 1954. Next point. Um, comprises Karaikal, in brackets Tamil Nadu. Physical. This is Puducherry, this one, and you see this right below it. You find Karaikal. So it comprises areas that are outside Puducherry in other states. That is Karaikal, Tamil Nadu, comma Yanam, Andhra Pradesh. This is Yanam. Okay, and Mahe, M-A-H-E, Mahe in Kerala. This is Mahe. Okay. You know, this Mahe is India's smallest district by area. Its area, if I'm not wrong, is 9 square kilometers. Very small. I've been here. I mean, it's extremely small. There is nothing except one main road and a few streets. That's the district. Next point. Assembly comprises. Okay, you write this. One of only two union territories. To have a legislature. And a chief minister. To have a legislature and a chief minister. Okay, next. In bracket, what is the other one, by the way? If you want to write in brackets, the other is Delhi. The other is Delhi. Next, Puducherry Assembly. It is a unicameral house. Puducherry Assembly comprises 33 members. That is 33 MLAs. 33 members, comma, including 3 nominated by the union government. 3 nominated by the union government. The outgoing chief minister is V. Narayanasamy. S-A-M-Y. V. Narayanasamy. The DMK and the Congress had a coalition government. This is the only Congress bastion in the south. Unfortunately, some of the members of this coalition, they resigned. The Indian National Congress especially, they resigned, and they backed out actually. So finally, the scales were tilted against the current chief minister, and he lost the vote of confidence. It also helps the BJP because it has 3 nominated members, and all 3 are actual BJP members. Okay, you could write one more point. Outgoing lieutenant governor is Kiran Bedi. She was India's first IPS officer, first woman IPS officer, I think 1972. First Indian woman IPS officer. And right, interim, that is current interim LG is Tamilisai Soundarajan. She is the Lieutenant Colonel LG, and she comes from Tamil Nadu, and currently the governor of Telangana state. Telangana state. It's simple, easy to learn. It's always easy to learn, isn't it? Yeah. So that's a crisis. What about the lieutenant governor? What about the those in charge of these UTs? Chandigarh. This is Chandigarh. Okay, this is a union territory plus the capitals of two states, Punjab and Haryana. Its lieutenant governor is a guy called Vijayendra. It's actually, if I'm not wrong, an administrator, Vijayendra Singh Pal. Vijayendra Pal Singh. Sorry, Vijayendra Pal Singh. Okay, Ladakh. Ladakh is Radha Krishna Mathur. Radha Krishna Mathur. Next, Andaman and Nicobar Islands. This set of islands here. Devendra Kumar Joshi. Devendra Kumar Joshi. DK Joshi. Next, Jammu and Kashmir, Manoj Sinha. Manoj Sinha. Manoj Sinha. Okay. We know Puducherry. Chaliye, आगे चलते हैं. This, ladies and gentlemen, is V. Narayan Swamy, and this is Kiran Bedi. Okay. Next, Vijay Sampla has recently taken charge as the chairman of the National Commission for Scheduled Castes. Okay. Who is the Chief Election Commissioner of India? Sunil Arora. Sunil Arora. Comptroller and Auditor General of India, Girish Chandra Murmu. Girish Chandra Murmu, the ex-Lieutenant Governor of J&K. Girish Chandra Murmu. Chairman of 15th Finance Commission, Nand Kishore Singh. Nand Kishore Singh. Nand Kishore Singh. Nand Kishore Singh. Chairman of the National Commission for Scheduled Tribes. I think it's Harsh Chauhan. Yeah, Harsh Chauhan. Yeah. I remember seeing it on the website. If you look at the website on the right, you will find his name. Yeah, his photo and his face. Harsh Chauhan. It's a green colored, green, light green, all shades of green you would find on the website. Harsh Chauhan. Next. The centre has recently lifted the embargo, boycott, ban on private sector banks for conducting of government-related transactions. In this context, which are the following related government-related transactions will now be provided by private banks. Well, all of them actually, all of them. Yeah. One thing is that in the past, you could not see in 2012. You could write one sentence. You write this. In 2012, the Union Ministry of Finance had not allowed private banks or had stopped private banks from engaging in government related transactions. So you could not have paid any tax through private sector banks. There are some select banks like I think ICICI Bank and HDFC Bank are allowed, but other private banks are not allowed to engage in these taxes, these activities. So pension payments had to be made through public sector banks and all that stuff. Government schemes, the money has to be routed through public sector banks. Now the ban has been lifted. When the ban is lifted, now of course some of these private banks would also get government business. Like it would someone pays tax, so the money comes to the bank. The money, you see, why the money will go to the bank, but still end of the day it can be used by the bank. Got it? and plus for every transaction there is money that bank RBI pays to the, see, RBI does this on behalf of the government. The center doesn't do this. RBI collects all this money through transactions. So RBI pays the public and private sector banks, for every transaction. Like for example, revenue receipts. When you pay taxes and everything, for every transaction, the bank collects 40 rupees from the RBI. That's a lot of money, isn't it? It's a very good source of income for private banks. So, when private banks, let's say one particular private bank has been chosen the government for disbursal of certain money, say Narega kind of money. So 10,000 crore comes into this bank. Imagine what 10,000 crore can do to the liquidity with the bank. I mean, it can boost its liquidity, its lending and everything else, isn't it? Yeah. So today, all private banks being allowed. I guess that's about it. Yeah, too much of stuff is always bad. Which of the following statements are true with regard to the recently approved production linked incentive scheme, PLI scheme for IT hardware? Okay, all of them are true. So why it is mentioned here, I'll give you some data on this. Okay, please write. First, right, I'll give you point by point. First point, attract. Objective is to attract, objective or aim, AIM, aim is to attract global manufacturing, global IT hardware manufacturing companies, global IT hardware manufacturing companies to set up manufacturing units in India. So they come set up a unit in India. Number 2, make national champions of local IT hardware producers. Next point. The scheme provides manufacturers cashback. Scheme provides manufacturers cashback of between 1 and 4%, cashback of between 1 and 4% of additional sales of locally made goods. Next, we'll look at the third point. We'll take that figure. Rupees 7,350 crore. It's actually 25 crore, but I think you would write 7350 crore worth of incentives will be made available for manufacturers of laptops, personal computers, desktops, tablets and servers, 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 full stop. The scheme aims at production of rupees 3.26 lakh crore, aims at production of rupees 3.26 lakh crore worth of IT hardware production is, that's the value of total goods produced and and exports of rupees 2.45 lakh crore, rupees 2.545 lakh crore, and generate an employment of and generate 1.8 lakh jobs, and generate 1.8 lakh jobs, 1.8 lakh jobs, full stop. Last point. Currently, laptop and tablet demand in India is met through largely met through imports valued at 29,740 crore, I think I jumbled the numbers here. It should be 470 crores. Laptops and tablets demand in India is met largely through imports of imports valued at, I'm so sorry, imports, because we are writing imports valued at rupees 29,470 crore and 2870 crore respectively. Okay, you see that number there? When I say respectively, it means of the total demand for labor, laptops in India, there is huge demand of goods, but we don't produce enough in the country, so we have to import. And how much are we importing? Laptops worth 29,470 crore, take 30,000 crore. 30,000 crore money is going out. You understand that? And tablets, worth almost 3,000 crore rupees. Now, if these foreign companies come to India, set up a manufacturing base, one, we will save foreign exchange, we will generate employment for our people, we'll generate, millions of jobs for our people. When jobs are there, there is purchasing power. When there is purchasing power, there is demand for goods and services, indirect employment, hotels and all that stuff. And for these companies to manufacture laptops and everything, they would require raw material, components and everything. They could be sourced from local manufacturing units. So business for our local business, local businesses. So it's a huge thing, my friends. That's why the government is pushing companies to come to India, set up businesses. This is working well. This particular scheme of production linked incentives, is really working well, my friends. So when a company does sales beyond certain numbers, okay, it gets cash back from the government. So up to this much you get 1%, up to beyond that 2%. There is a band like that. Amazing, no? Yeah. Next. The world's largest cricket stadium at Motera in Ahmedabad was previously called the Sardar Patel's Cricket Stadium, has now recently been renamed as Narendra Modi Stadium. Narendra Modi Stadium. Now, I want you to know one more thing here. The stadium is called Narendra Modi Stadium, but the entire sports complex is still called Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel Sports Complex. Around the stadium there are other facilities, so the entire sports complex is called, that includes the stadium, it's called Sardar Patel Sports Complex. Okay. Now, Arun Jaitley Stadium is in New Delhi. It's in New Delhi. This was previously called Firoz Shah Kotla Grounds. This is M.A. Chidambaram. This is M.A. Chidambaram Stadium is in Chennai, and previously called Chepak. It's called Chepak. Then Savai Mansingh Stadium, as the name suggests, Jaipur. Atal Bihari Vajpayee Stadium, also called Ekana Stadium, is in Lucknow. Also called Ekana, it's in Lucknow. Okay, I think good things to learn, my friends. It's always good to learn new things. Which has become the first African country to sign a comprehensive economic cooperation and partnership agreement, SECPA, with India? Mauritius. It's Mauritius, and I don't know if there is a map. There is no map, but I will tell you where is Mauritius. I can show you where is Mauritius. This is Mauritius. You see tiny country here. This group of islands here. This is Mauritius. This Seychelles. Again, a very tiny country. Okay. This is Socotra Island. After this class, type in Socotra. Socotra. Socotra Island is owned by Yemen, and if you would look at the island, it has trees that look like alien. It's an alien world kind of thing. Just look it up once. Socotra. Okay. Small countries, Seychelles, Mauritius, and all that. Chali, I just wanted you to become familiar, nothing more than that, my friends. It's always good to become familiar, isn't it? Yeah. Nigeria, Kenya, Egypt, Mozambique. Okay, why don't we learn about these countries? Port Louis is the capital of Mauritius. Port Louis. Its prime minister is Pravind, Jugnauth or Jagannath. Okay. It's the guy is of Indian origin. Currency is rupee. Mauritian rupee. Nigeria, where there are a lot of kidnappings happening. The capital is Abuja, and the president is Muhammadu. There is a U in the end of his name, Muhammadu Buhari. And of course, the currency is Naira. Africa's most populous country, Nigeria. Most populous country. Kenya, we discussed a while ago. Egypt, capital is Cairo. And the president is a guy called Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. Okay. The currency is pound, Egyptian pound. The currency is pound. Mozambique. You see, all vowels will be there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So, the capital is Maputo. It's a country on the southeastern coast of Africa. You will find it next to South America, squeezed between South Africa and Tanzania ke beech mein on the coast. You will find Mozambique. The capital is Maputo, and the president is a guy called Philip Nyusi. And the currency is metical. Okay, next. Which country has recently passed a first world law aimed at making Google and Facebook pay for news content on their platforms? Australia. There was this thing about Australia cutting off Google and all that, and Google said we will withdraw from Australia. Why was this controversy? Why did it start? See, Google today, if you want news, you normally don't go to a website, a news website. You simply type in Google, like that, or you get news feed from Google. When you open your Google app, you find news feed, and along with the news feed, you would find ads, Google ads. You click on one of those ads, it will take you there. Google earns money. Whereas the company from whose A website Google has sourced the news isn't paid anything. So government of Australia had said these social media companies will have to pay to to the media, Australian media companies. Initially they refused, but now they have come around because see what Australia has done, France has done in the past. India is looking at doing this. India is looking at doing this because these guys make a lot of money and our guys don't make any money. And these days the sale of newspapers, print media has gone down, which effectively means that the source of incomes for these companies, for the media companies, also have gone down. That's impacting employment, that's impacting operations, everything. So the government is saying if you are using and benefiting, share some of that revenue with our guys. That's it. It's a fair world. So Australia, it's in news for all the wrong reasons. One of the ministers had to resign, and he's also the Attorney General, on allegations of raping a 16-year-old girl way back in 1988. I mean, it's a crazy world, and it's a tiny country by population, hardly about 2.6 crore. It's less than 2.5 crore. Yeah, but the latest number somewhere put the number at 2.6 crore. Think about 2.6 crore in an area of 76 lakh square kilometers. Crazy. Australia's the capital is Canberra, and ladies and gentlemen, the Prime Minister is Scott Morrison. Scott Morrison. The currency is dollar, Australian dollar. I think you know about all these countries, but let me bring in a few more things about this country. Okay, about these three, So Canada is the second largest country in the world by area, about 99 lakh square kilometers. So when I say Australia's area is 76 lakh, it is between 76 and 77. And when I say 99 lakh square kilometers in case of Canada, it is between 99 lakh and 100,000. That is 1 crore. Okay, 100 lakh crore, 100,000 kilometers. So it is 99 lakh square kilometers, and not 100,000, 99 lakh square kilometers, and the capital is Ottawa. And the Prime Minister is Justin Trudeau. Sometimes there is this block. Justin Trudeau. Okay, it's head of the state. This is head of the government, Prime Minister. The head of the state is the British monarch, Queen Elizabeth II. And the currency is Canadian dollar. Okay. We should not put this symbol, the dollar symbol, for dollar. Except this is, remember, this is only for the US. This is only for the US. Typically used only for US. Next. According to the International Institute for Strategic Studies, which country was the world's largest defense spender in 2020, accounting for about 40% of global defense expenditure. There are two major organizations that come out with these kinds of surveys. One is the IISS, and the other one is called SIPRI, Stockholm Institute of Peace and Research. Okay, Stockholm International Institute of Peace and Research, whatever. So, the idea is that these organizations use different methodology. So the numbers could be very, different. The world's number one defense spender is, you could write this, US. You could write top 5 defense spenders. You could write top 5 defense spenders, absolute amounts, top 5 defense spenders in $billion. So once you write in $1 billion, you just have to write numbers. 1, United States, $738 billion. That's a lot of money. That is almost 9 times India's defense budget. Okay, more than 9 officially. This year it's about 90. Number 2 is China, 194. See, China, there is no transparency in Chinese numbers. In fact, this is a highly disputed number. They officially quote this to be 194. And they ended up spending, normally they spend three times the number they say, because there is no accountability in China. So that's how it is. Hmm? The world's largest defense spender is spends about $738 billion. China spends about 194. India number three, ranked number three, India. Okay, it's mentioned here three, India. This is $64 billion. $64 billion. Then comes UK. UK $62 billion. Number four, number three. And number five is Russia, $61 billion. $61 billion. So countries like India, United States are democracies, and there is a lot of transparency in this number, in this data. But when it comes to countries like China and Russia, they aren't transparent, and they just they what we say, they spend much more than they showed to us. Okay. I think you know about all these countries, don't you? Okay, just before that, Russia. Russia, we can write. The capital, as you know, is Moscow, and you know the president is Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin, that's the president. The prime minister is Mikhail Mishustin. You may get this question in the exam. Mikhail Mishustin, and the currency is ruble. The currency of Russia is ruble. R-U-B-L-E, ruble. Okay. And one more thing you need to know is that Russia is the world's biggest country by area. Its area is about 1.7 crore square kilometers. 1.7 crore square kilometers. Which of the following series has recently been named the preferred bidder to host the 2032 Olympic Games by the International Olympic Committee? This is the preferred bidder, it's not the final bid. Okay, Brisbane, Australia. Now, India has also, Mumbai also thought, candidate. Mumbai is a prime candidate for this, but then these are all, what to say, guesstimates. We never know which city will get the bid to host the games. But before that, now this is 2021, so this will come about 11 years later. 2020 to be held in 2021, Summer Olympic venue or Summer Olympic Games venue is Tokyo. Last year these were to happen, this should have happened, but because of the COVID lockdowns and with lockdown pandemic and all, Tokyo is going to host them later this year. 2024 Paris, 2028 Los Angeles, America. Okay, so 32 comes next. Now, when was the last time that Tokyo, before the current event, had hosted the Olympic Games? In 1964. Beijing in 2008. New Delhi, never. Olympic Games, never. Paris had hosted the Olympic Games in 1900. The second edition of the modern Olympic Games, the first was in Athens, Greece. The second was in Paris, France. And it's the only time cricket was an Olympic game. Remember, cricket was an Olympic game at the 1900, Olympic Games in Paris. So next was 1924, and now they are going to host in 2024. So you can say 100 years. 100 years, very easy to remember. Okay. Which company has recently signed Viswanathan Anand, the 5-time world chess champion, as mentor for the FICHTEL, which is Physical and Digital Global Chess League? Tech Mahindra. So, Tech Mahindra. Tech Mahindra is one of India's largest IT services company. is this Chandra Prakash Gurnani is the CEO. Chandra Prakash Gurnani. Then HCL Technologies. HCL Technologies, the CEO is Vijay Kumar. C. Vijay Kumar. C. Vijay Kumar. Next, L&T, Larsen and Toubro. What's his name? S.N. Subramanian. S.N. Subramanian. Subramanian. That's the name. L&T, S.N. Subramanian. Then Infosys, Salil Parekh. Salil Parekh. Tata Consultancy Services. Rajesh Gopinathan. Rajesh Gopinathan. Rajesh Gopinathan. Okay, guys. Which is the first country in the world to identify a need for action on non-alcoholic fatty liver disease? India. Now, fatty non-alcoholic. Typically, liver is impacted by alcohol, overconsumption of alcohol, and even mild consumption. Sometimes it leads to burning or inflammation of the liver, accumulation of fat, and everything. But in this case, this particular non-alcoholic fatty liver, it happens in the case of people who don't consume any alcohol, absolutely no alcohol, but it still happens, and it is believed 1 in 1 in 4 people around the world. Okay, and it's a pretty common thing, of course, that's what they say. And India, non-alcoholic. Okay, Spain, the capital is Madrid, and Madrid. The Prime Minister is Pedro Sanchez. It's a constitutional monarchy. They have king also. Pedro Sanchez. Euro is the currency. And the rest we have discussed already. The Sahitya Academy and Padma Shri Award, E. Vishnu Narayan Namboothiri passed away on the 25th of February this year. He was associated with Malayalam literature. I'll give you the names of 2 of his books. See, I may get the pronunciation incorrect because I'm not a Malayali, but yeah, kindly bear with me. One book of this great man, Charulata. Yeah, there is a movie made by Satyajit Ray of the same title. I don't think it's the same book. Charulata. And the other book is Bhumi Geetangal. Bhumi Geetangal. Bhumi Geetangal. Okay. Padma Shri is the 4th highest civilian award in India. 4th highest civilian award in India. Okay. The highest award, of course, is Bharat Ratna. Then we have Padma Vibhushan. Padma Vibhushan, Padma Bhushan, and then Padma Shri. These are the 4 highest awards in India. Next. Which ministry has recently signed an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding, with the Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs for exchange of data for enhancing ease of doing business in India and to improve overall regulatory enforcement. Doing business in India is a tough thing, that's what foreigners say. So to make it easier, the process, entire regulatory framework, what documents are required, what legal formalities have to be completed before anyone would start a business. To make it easy for people to set up businesses, the CBIC and one ministry, that is the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, have come together, to lay down certain ideas. Now, who is the Corporate Affairs Minister? Corporate Affairs plus Finance is Nirmala Sitharaman. Nirmala Sitharaman. Corporate Affairs plus Finance. Union Ministry of Finance, headed by Nirmala Sitharaman. Nirmala Sitharaman. Ministry of Science and Technology. See, Ministry of Science and Technology is headed by the same person who heads two other ministries. The other two ministries are Earth Sciences Earth Sciences and Health and Family Welfare. Health and Family Welfare. So three ministries are headed by the same person. Three ministries, before we take the name of the person, one is Science and Technology, Earth Sciences, and Health and Family Welfare. These three ministries are headed by Dr. Harshvardhan. Dr. Harshvardhan. चलिए उसके बाद let's look at choice 2. What is that? Ministry of Heavy Industries and Public Enterprise. The person who heads this ministry also heads two other ministries, and the two other ministries are Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Environment, Forest and Climate Change, plus Information and Broadcasting. Information and Broadcasting, and that Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises. Okay, all headed by Prakash Javadekar. Prakash Javadekar. Okay. Ministry of Commerce and Industry. The person who heads this ministry also heads two other ministries. One is the other ministry is Railways. Then Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution. Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution. All three are headed by Piyush Goyal. Okay. So next, the last one, Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises. Now this particular ministry is headed by a person who heads another ministry also. The other ministry headed by this person is Road Transport and Highways. Road Transport and Highways, headed by Nitin Gadkari. Okay. Which bowler has recently reached a milestone of 400 test wickets, thereby becoming the fastest Indian to achieve such a feat? Ravichandran Ashwin achieved this in his 77th test, and the fastest bowler, fastest to get this 400 test wickets is Muthaiya Muralitharan, the greatest bowler for our age, Muthaiya Muralitharan. This chap took this number of wickets, I think, if I'm not wrong, in just about 72 tests. 5 tests less than our Ashwin. Okay. So number 1 is Muralitharan, 72 tests. Number 2 is Ashwin. Number 3, you don't have to write this, but there are two guys. One is Richard Hadley. Yeah, amazing chap, New Zealand. And then Dale Steyn, South African, Dale Steyn. Together, took 80 tests each. 80 tests each. Okay, so and Ravichandran Ashwin achieved this milestone, if I'm not wrong, in Ahmedabad, in Ahmedabad at the Narendra Modi Stadium. Open market operations. One of the measures taken by the Reserve Bank of India to control credit expansion in the country are about sale and purchase of government securities. You could write this, to control credit expansion means to control money supply. Simple. Money supply. You could write to the points. You write first point. OMO, RBI tool to control money supply. To control money supply. Next, to increase supply. To increase money supply. To increase money supply in the system. To increase money supply in the system, comma, the RBI buys government securities. Buys government securities. Okay. Full stop. To decrease money supply. It sells government securities. Security means bonds, government bonds, treasury bills and all that. Government bonds. I was just looking for some paper, no paper. Let's say the government wants to increase money supply. When RBI wants to increase money supply, what it does is it actually, purchases government securities. The banks and all have government securities. The RBI purchases. RBI gives them money. What do the banks do with the money? They lend it. So that's how money supply increases. Okay, but if the money supply is in excess, and that could impact inflation. So what RBI does is it sells government securities. So banks have to buy. Okay, when banks and other financial institutions buy, the money comes into the RBI's lockers, so the money supply goes down, thereby controlling inflation and other things. Basically, that's the idea. Okay, and the RBI does this for the government. It does this for the government through commercial banks. The RBI never conducts open market operations directly with the public. It always does this with commercial banks. Okay. So it's indirect finance. Mohamed Bazoum has recently been declared winner of Niger's presidential election. I don't know whether there is a map. No, there is no map. So Niger is a country in Africa, just above Nigeria. You would find Niger actually. Okay, this is a country that's pretty much in a bad shape actually. Okay, in a bad shape, and the capital is Niamey. Okay, let me give you this dope. I didn't want to, but chalo. Niger, Niamey, and Mohamed Bazoum is the president, most likely the president. Okay, you could say he's the president because as of now, the incumbent Mohamedou Issoufou is leaving the country. He is leaving. Don't write his name. Want to write his outgoing president's name? Incoming is Bazoum. Outgoing is Mohamedou Issoufou. Mohamedou Issoufou. You could look up them. This is U. There is a U here. Issoufou. Issoufou. Okay. So, Niger's capital is franc. It is franc. It's franc. What about the choices? Algeria, I think in the previous session we had taken the name. Croatia, we could write. Croatia is this country in Europe. It was a part of the former Soviet Union. It's next to Serbia. You would find this. Croatia, Serbia, Slovenia, Bosnia and Herzegovina. These countries in a bunch. Croatia's capital is Zagreb. Prime Minister is Andrej Plenković. Andrej Plenković, that's the capital, Prime Minister. And the currency is kuna. Currency is kuna. Okay. Chalo. Under chairship, which country has recently hosted the first meeting of the BRICS Finance and Central Bank Deputies? You know, BRICS stands for B for Brazil, R for Russia, I for India, C for China, S for South Africa. So this is, it should have been in order actually. BRICS, BRICS. So India has hosted this first meeting. Okay. Brazil. The capital is Brasilia, the fifth largest country in the world by area, sixth by population. Brazil is fifth largest country in the world, and fifth, and I think it's the largest country in southern hemisphere. Yeah, it's the largest country in the southern hemisphere. So its president is Jair Bolsonaro. And currency is real. This is real. Next, which of the following persons has recently been appointed the Global Goodwill Ambassador with the UN Refugee Agency, UNHCR? Gugu Bata Rao. This is Gugu Bata Rao, and brilliant actor she is. I've seen her TV series actually. I can tell you a couple of things. You just write the name of one movie she has starred in. Larry Crow. Larry Crow. One movie. And you know this movie called Beauty and the Beast, in the animated movie, and she gave a voiceover for a character called Plunkett, I think. Yeah. Anyway, you just write actress Larry Crow. Jennifer Lawrence is, I think, the highest paid female actress in the world. Jennifer Lawrence. This, the Hunger Games series, yes, she is there. Terrific actress. Yeah. The Receivables Exchange of India Limited is a joint venture between the National Stock Exchange in SIDBI and SIDBI. The National Stock Exchange, as you know, is India's premier stock exchange. You just write about this particular thing before we discuss, trades and all that stuff. So write NSE. First point, NSE established 1993. Established 1993. Established 1993. Second point, location Mumbai. Location Mumbai. Third point, CEO Vikram Limaye. Fourth, benchmark index, that's the main index, benchmark index called Nifty, NIFTY, Nifty. 50 stocks are taken, the weighted average is 50 stocks are taken to calculate this index. So NSE plus 50 is Nifty. Yeah. Someday I'll tell you about, when in live class, I'll tell you about how shares work. So the Receivables Exchange of India Limited is a joint venture. Okay, even before that, I'll tell you NHB, the chairman is Sardar Kumar Hota. Sardar Kumar Hota, NHB chairman. SIDBI, Small Industries Development Bank India, currently does not have any chairman. The post is vacant. The post is vacant. The previous guy was Muhammad Mustafa, but currently it's the post is vacant. SEBI is the Securities and Exchange Board of India, the regulator of the commodities and capital market in India. Securities and Exchange Board of India and Exchange Board of India. This, my friends, is Securities and Exchange Board of India, regulator of capital and commodities market. Capital, you can write stock markets here by capital. Stock and commodity markets. Commodity markets. Next. And chairman is Ajay Tyagi. Ajay Tyagi. Ajay Tyagi. Ajay Tyagi. Oh, Ajay Tyagi. Chalo, next, NABARD, right? The full form of NABARD, National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development. National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development. National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development. Okay. Chairman Chintala Govindarajulu. Chintala Govindarajulu. It's headquartered in Mumbai. Established 1982. In any case, from here let's look at what is the Receivables Exchange of India Limited. You underline that and write this. You write this entire thing, okay, in brackets RXIL, that's a short form of it. Receivables Exchange of India Limited is a joint venture between the National Stock Exchange and the Small Industries Development Bank of India. Small Industries Development Bank of India. Full stop. Okay. RXIL has set up a platform named TREDS, write the short form first. TREDS dash trade receivable, trade TRADE, trade receivable e-discounting system, electronic e-discounting system, full stop. Next point. MSMEs, you know the full form, so you write the short form. MSMEs face problems or limitations or hurdles or constraints in obtaining or in securing, simple words, yeah, in securing adequate finance, comma, especially in terms of, or other in terms of their ability to convert their trade receivables their trade receivables into liquid funds, into liquid funds. Full stop. Full stop. The TREDS platform, on the TREDS platform, comma, invoices of trade receivables can be traded at a discount to raise immediate cash. Next point. The buyers of such invoices are banks and other registered members. Full stop. Sometimes if you run a business, let's say you have a small scale unit. Now you received money, but there is invoice. You not received money, but there is an invoice. You have sold stuff to someone. Money is to come from them. You have raised the invoice that, let's say, 1 crore money is due from that person. But typically it takes time for that money to come. But now you need money for your working capital needs, for other expenses and everything. You don't have enough money. So what do is, you come to this platform, TREDS. There you can, you can showcase your, you take a copy and everything. Then you showcase this invoice that, look, I have this invoice of 1 crore rupees. I would like to exchange this for immediate cash. So someone would say, okay, 1 crore, we will pay you, 99,000 rupees. So 1,000 rupees discount. Someone else might say 5,000 rupees discount. So, people try to buy this. The difference is their earning. So they would get 1 crore from that supplier, whereas they paid only 99,95,000 rupees. So 5,000 would be their profit. You got this? But what happens to this? What happens to you? You get immediate cash. For you, getting immediate cash is more important to generate more business. Okay, and this is where this exchanges come in. Receivables exchange. You have to receive, and this is where you can discount them. It's like discounting a normal, hundi. That's it. Okay. Which of the following banks are not insured by DICGC? Deposit Insurance and Credit Guarantee Corporation. Deposit Insurance and Credit Guarantee Corporation, that is DICGC. Okay. Now, any kind of deposit made with the other banks is safe. Up to 5 lakh rupees, your money deposited with 1, 2, 4, 5 is safe. Up to 5 lakh rupees. But when it comes to primary cooperative banks, money is not safe. When I say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, not 5, 1, 2, 3, 4 actually. Okay. So your money is safe with regional banks, it's safe with foreign banks, this is safe with scheduled commercial banks, local area banks. The money is not safe with primary cooperative banks. That's what it means. Okay. Up to 5 lakh rupees, DICGC lends insurance. The dear money policy. The word dear means expensive. It cost me dear, which means it was expensive. The dear money policy of the RBI refers to, banks offering loans at a higher rate of interest. So higher rate means you pay high, it costs you money. It's dear, it becomes very expensive. And any loan taken at a high rate of interest is typically taken when there is a desperate need. Okay, and it actually eats into your profits. If you're a manufacturer, it eats into your, whatever profit you make, basically, in any kind of activity. So it's not always advice. Generally, unless there is desperate need, one should not take a loan at a high rate of interest. Okay, high rate of interest, typically there is a word called usury. It's very high rate of interest, very high rate of interest. Okay, next. Which of the following has launched an indigenously developed India's first digital asset management and storage platform called Digibox? I think we had discussed this somewhere else. I don't exactly remember, but we discussed that it was launched by the Niti Aayog, National Institution for Transforming India. National Institution for Transforming India. You can see this on online. It's a cloud account kind of thing. Okay, so its vice chairman is Rajiv Kumar. The chairman is always the prime minister, and this is a vice chairman. This is a chairman, and the CEO is Amitabh Kant. IRDAI, Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority of India. Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority of India. The chairman is Subhash Chandra Khuntia. Subhash Chandra Khuntia. Next, see, this is the regulator of the insurance sector. PFRDA, Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority. Okay, next, the chairman is Supratim Bandyopadhyay. I think I'm right. Yeah, Supratim Bandyopadhyay. Bandyopadhyay. Sabhi we discussed a while ago. Okay. Which IT firm announced the launching of a new challenge along with the government and the sponsorship money of rupees 2 crore to recognize agri-tech startups with innovative ideas? Cisco India. Cisco is one of the world's biggest maker of electronic internet gear, modems, routers, teleconferencing facilities. It's a huge company. It's a $52 billion company. Sales last year were about $52 billion. The company's name comes from the city where it was founded, San Francisco. Cisco, the last 5 letters of San Francisco's name. Okay, the company is headquartered in San Jose, California, US. See, this J is pronounced with an H in Spanish. San Jose, California, US. San Jose town. And the CEO of this company is Chuck Robbins. Tech Mahindra, we mentioned a while ago, CP Gurnani. Wipro, the CEO is Thierry Delaporte. Capgemini is a French company, and this is headquartered in Paris. Its CEO is Ayman Izzat. So they're going to, Cisco says that if any agri-tech startup comes up to improve agricultural productivity and everything else, we will give them 2 crore rupees to start. I mean, it's kind of fund basically. sponsorship fund. Oh, that's about it, I guess. Thanks for being here, guys. I hope you learned a few good things. Thanks once again. Stay curious.